Welcome back, everybody, to the No Clue Inc. podcast, Adventures in Running a Business for Beginners. I'm your host, Casey Catala, and I am here today with two guys who run a company called SD Tech. Wes Ulmer, did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay, and Shane Mishler.
That's correct.
Wes is the founder of SD Tech, founded it 20 years ago, CEO and owner, and Shane came on as COO. And I don't want to hear from you guys. You know, there's people out there right now going, oh my gosh, I know these two guys and they run this company and here's what they do. I think the unique perspective of you guys is that you are a tech company, SD Tech, and we kind of met through my connection with Massage Heights. You guys ran all of our tablets and everything on the back end. I don't think we ever saw you actually in store, but you always handled us from the phone and did a great job. But kind of want to hear from you guys, I guess, Wes first. What made you start SD Tech? How did that come about?
Sure. Yeah, I'd say back in the day, my dad was an architect, and it was around that time, kind of the mid 90s, computer aided design was becoming a thing and more people were using it. But at that point in time, you couldn't just go to the store and buy a computer. A lot of times you had to build a PC from scratch. So my dad, being the do-it-yourselfer that he is, he would go to Altex and I'd go with him a lot of times. We'd go get components and he'd build them and put them together. And back then you had to load the software and the operating system and all that kind of stuff. So people nowadays have it easy. You just walk into Best Buy and there's a computer and it's got Windows and it's ready to go, right? But back in the day, you didn't have any of that. So you had to build all that from scratch. So getting to watch him put all that stuff together, and it really interested me. So I learned a lot from him. And then I started helping some of his business colleagues as they were also older and computers were new to them as well, kind of helping them learn how to use the computer, getting AutoCAD and things like that loaded on there for them. After that, straight out of high school, I graduated a little bit early. And then I started working at Southwest Research, worked there for a while. I moved over to Caremark. There's an opportunity for pay increase and more responsibility and things like that. So I took that position over there at Caremark, worked there for about a year. And then I moved on to IBM up in Austin, worked there for a little bit, did some Y2K stuff. And then from there, I went back here to San Antonio to USAA, worked a contract position there for a bit, servicing some servers in their banking sector, and then switched from there to run SD Tech full time. They had a hiring freeze. And so it was a opportunity, kind of a crossroads. I either had to kind of stick it out there and see if they'd renew the contract or kind of start my own thing. So I decided to give it a go and see if I could make it work.
So at that point, you're how old when you decided to give it a go?
It's around 2000. So I was, my early 20s.
Okay.
And, it was scary at first. I didn't know what was going to happen or, if it was going to work out or not. But, some stumbles along the way. But, ultimately you find the right people and put the right processes in place and things like that. And it kind of blossomed over the years. But our relationship that we built with Massage Heights was, a very critical piece of that. And seeing that opportunity there and growing that relationship organically over the years was a key part of our success.
But you didn't come across Massage Heights until what year was that?
That was probably 2014.
Yeah.
2014 timeframe. I was probably going to see Sarah probably from 2012, but it didn't. A business opportunity didn't present itself until probably closer to 2014.
Okay, but you start SD Tech really in 2000.
Yep.
And you start with how many people did you get? The funding for it. Obviously you have a little bit of entrepreneurship by watching your dad and growing up, and you've got a lot of experience, but now it's you. So how did that come about?
Yeah, it was me doing everything. It was me doing the bookkeeping, which looking back on it now, I really should have had an accountant. That's, if I could give any business owner actual business advice, it would be make sure you get a good CPA. It's crucial to make sure you're getting the deductions, every legal deduction you can get, and that'll help you to maximize your profitability and things like that. And make sure you're not paying too much in taxes or too little. So it was me at first, me doing the invoicing, the bookkeeping, the estimates, the follow-up, the sales, the support. And so I think at the beginning, it was it was very taxing to do all those things. And then even when you did manage to get the clientele, you then had to service that clientele. Otherwise you would lose that clientele. We've never had contracts. So it's on us to make sure that we maintain that level of service that the client expects.
Yeah.
And we're able to do that over the years. But yeah, it was very difficult at the beginning. I think the first year I probably made like, my total gross revenue was like 25K for the entire year, but it was something, and I think at the time I was maybe at the last job I was at USAA, was probably making 45 or something like that. So it was quite a pay cut.
Mhm.
So I had to figure out how to cut expenses to make it work. But initially it kind of grew in various plateaus. You gain a couple clients, make a little more revenue, and then kind of plateau out because it was difficult to negotiate servicing those clients and growing and servicing the clients and growing and things like that. Eventually adding, an admin that was helpful. So,
And then did you eventually add sales? You started adding sales guys, sales reps and things like
That
that?
came
Yep.
much, much, much later though, Casey. Much later.
How much later than that?
19 years later.
Basically.
Yeah. It was,
You know
it was
Yeah.
19 years later before there was a full-time salesperson outside of Wes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that, you think that was a smart move, or you would look back and you go, man, I could have 3 times my business if I had come up with some creative comp plans and gone through because I was a franchisee. You're doing like a true startup. And so,
Right.
I had a staff of 30. You have a staff of 1 when you first started out. And then, so who did you hire? Who was your first hire?
First hire was one additional technician. So I had that tech with me I'm still friends with him. He moved on to a IT position at a mortgage lender, but he was with me for probably, 10, 12 years or so. And then it was the delicate balance of when you're running on a shoestring budget, how many hours can you give the guy versus you've got to train him to be able to support the different clients. So he was kind of the frontline guy that would do the simple things, and then more of the network type stuff would fall on me. So it gave me a little more free time to grow the business a bit more. Along the way, running and building those relationships with Keller Williams, that was another crucial client that's really helped us over the years to grow. And Massage Heights, those are probably 2 of the biggest ones I can point to that really helped us leapfrog and grow. But part of it's, seeing that opportunity that it's there and building the relationship organically. So it wasn't, forced or salesy or anything like that. Like with Stone Oak Massage Heights, it's coincidentally next door to our office right now, which is kind of ironic.
Right over there
that was
and
our
get a
first
massage
Heights we ever. Yeah. I would go there, I think at the time I could only really afford to go there when I first started, like once a month. That was, my little treat. But now I have Sarah booked out every week. I just have them book her out for the entire year.
That's awesome.
And go there every week. And that's kind of my disconnect time. But that relationship, when I saw that they needed, support on some of their IT stuff and getting connected, thankfully Sarah put in a good word for us, connected me with Wayne, and I talked with Wayne, and he gave us the opportunity to go in there and set up phones for him. And that's kind of how that all started with Massage Heights, and it's blossomed to be something a lot more than that. But being able to see that opportunity and taking a chance, that was, we put a bunch of hardware in there and phones and stuff like that, and didn't know if that was going to amount to anything or it would be something great. And it turned out to be something great.
Yeah. Well, and I know that turned out to be a huge account for you guys. With all of the locations and the tablet rollout, and that was pre-COVID, and we were all trying to move from paper to digital. Then the pandemic hits, and you guys did a seamless, very easy rollout, I think, when I had my place. So
thank you for that, Casey.
Yeah. So let's talk about, so you, like a lot of entrepreneurs, you bootstrap it up, like you're a one-man show, but you're in your 20s. So it's risky, but you're in your 20s. You could take some risks like that. And a lot of entrepreneurs we talk about, they're like, oh no, I got 2 kids I got a wife, I got a big mortgage, I've got the lifestyle hack, and they're afraid to go out on their own. And so what a lot of people, and you guys are very tenured, right? Like most of our entrepreneurs we talk to on this podcast, they're 10 years or less, and they're learning, and we're sharing, things that we've learned, do this, don't do that. We just had a big conversation about somebody signing a lease, and what I know about personal guarantees now, getting into a lease is, one of those things I'm like, wish someone had told me that. I had no clue. So fast forward, you're 20 years in about, you bring on Shane as COO, I guess in 2019. And where is the business now? Like, what goals have you hit? What things are you still trying to hit? What things are you still learning?
So I'll be more than happy to answer that question, Casey, but I'm gonna take a moment to get to it. So my background is very different than Wes's. I grew up very underprivileged, to say the least. I grew up as the oldest of 8 kids. My mother was a single mom working 3 part-time jobs, and we were always just trying to make ends meet. And so I got a job fairly early on working in a restaurant, washing dishes to try and pitch in for our household. And I worked at that restaurant for 5 years, and I worked from washing dishes. When I left at the end of the 5 years, I was running every aspect of the business in my early 20s, full-time manager and a full-time cook, handling literally just as much as I could. And then I was in the early stages of building out my family. And so I needed more money. I was making, full-time restaurant manager, I was making $7.75 an hour. This is a long time ago, but I wasn't making anything. It was a small family-owned business, and it was great. It was a great opportunity. But I switched and I went to oil and gas, and I worked in the oil field for 5 years, where I went from making, next to nothing to jumping up to 6 figures a year in my early 20s. And the money was helpful. The culture, the lifestyle, I hated it. It was so
really?
much. Anybody that knows me can't even picture me doing that. But I did it for 5 years, and I was good. I worked my way up in that business as well. And then I took a 12-month break from life. I got laid off. And during my oil field tenure, I had gotten divorced, and I was single for a year, and I met my now wife. Oh, I re-met her. I've known her for a long time. We've been together for 16 years now, but she supported me. She helped me during my layoff, and I spent 12 months getting reacquainted with myself. And I was like, I need to do something that's going to be for me. So I wanted to get into tech and pursue tech and leadership. So I worked for this company. I started off entry level. I worked for them for 5 years as well. And I went from entry level, and I left as a senior operations manager. And then that took me to my last non-SD tech job, hopefully the very last one I'll ever have. And I worked for Kohl's, the department store. I worked for their corporate office. One of their corporate offices in San Antonio. So I worked there for 5 years. Each year that I was there, I rotated through their various departments, and I learned about the credit card piece and the risk management, fraud, HR. And it was a good little trip. And I decided after that, I had spent 10 years in corporate world. I had spent 10 years developing my tech skills and my leadership skills. And I knew that I wanted to go into business for myself. So my lovely wife, again, was there to support me. And I took a step back, and I had been 3 months unemployed, and I had been working on a business plan. I wanted to open up my own very tech-centric restaurant. I'd been working on it for 2 years, and I was looking at getting investing. So I was meeting with various investors. And during that period of time, by hap chance, I met Wes. The story of how I met Wes is really interesting, but I'll share that at another time because it's probably a little bit longer than we have right now. But I met Wes by chance, and there was an immediate spark between us that I had never experienced. We shared very similar business philosophy. We shared very similar personal philosophies. We connected on everything from where we hung out. It was amazing that we had never met previously, to what types of music we enjoy, the shows we watch. And he was telling me about his business, and I loved everything about it. It was everything I wanted to do, but he had already been doing it for 20 years. And he was like, so you don't have a job? And I said, no, and he's like, you don't have a job? And I said, yeah, but I'm doing something I want to do something for myself. He's like, yeah, but you don't have a job. Why don't you come work for me? And so he offered me a job, not as a COO. When he offered me a job, he actually said, I don't know what you'll do for me. And I said, that's good because I have no idea what you need. And so I talked it over with my wife and she said, he sounds amazing. The business sounds amazing. And it sounds like you're really excited for the opportunity. And if the money's not there, you'll figure it out. We will figure it out. And so when I came on in 2019, how transparent do you want to be on where we were revenue wise?
That's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when I came on in 2019, the revenue was right around 350,000. So Wes had grown it up pretty substantially over his 19 years. I was our 5th employee. There was an admin, a tech, an installer, and then I came on somewhere in between all of those things. And I just spent time shadowing Wes, getting to know him, identifying what had made him successful, and helping to identify what problems existed in the business that I could help try and take care of that would allow us to move forward. And the biggest problem was also the number one reason for SD Tech success. Wes was working, no exaggeration, probably 90 to 110, 120 hours a week. He would work from 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, through his lunch, through to dinner. He would take a break, typically an hour to 2 hours to hang out with his kids and his wife. And then he would say, okay, love you guys, bye. And then he would be back at work and he would work until usually 1 to 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And I'm like, dude, this is how you were successful. Like you have a handful of employees, but you are a crazy man and you've been doing this for 2 decades. So I just did my best to help start taking things off his plate. And if I couldn't take them off his plate, then I at least wanted to share the workload, right? And I remember I realized that my impact was very noticeable and really good, not by our financial statements, not by our P&L, not by revenue growth, but when Wes's wife came to me and said, Shane, I want to thank you. You've been so much help to Wes. And I was like, oh, hey, I really appreciate it. She was like, no, I get time with my husband now. She was like, and he's able to set aside work because he trusts that there's somebody else who's as invested as he is. And that means that now we're getting more time. And she's so sweet. She's given me the same compliment time and time again over the last 5 years. But to me, that's one of my most proud achievements is giving this guy who has poured his, literally the majority of his life into this company, giving him some time to enjoy the other aspects of life. He sucks at it. He's always about business, Casey, always. But at least now there's a little bit more work-life balance.
Yeah. Wow. That's an amazing story. Truly. It gives me chills to hear you tell it. One, for the quality of life for Wes, for that. That's a great win. And I'm sure you guys have seen the revenue jump. And
I'm sorry. So we went from 350. It's been 5 years. We hit 2 million this last year. So we're doing okay.
Yeah. You cannot do it alone. And Wes, I'm surprised you made it so far for so many years by yourself.
I am too.
So now, you've built a team, you've got a partner, you guys have it. So where are you going next? Because it's clear, I don't think you met by happenstance. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that good people in business will always find each other. I want to know what business philosophy you guys shared and what personal philosophies you shared. Because you mentioned that you were aligned on those two things.
It's interesting. For us, our business philosophy and our personal philosophy, the number one connection we have, it's the same philosophy. And it's that regardless of our love for technology, regardless of our love for business and for making money, we really enjoy making money because it's really fun to spend.
Yeah.
But it's all about building relationships. And typically I had always been hesitant about even looking for an investor to launch my own company because it's so difficult to find good, healthy business relationships. And when Wes and I connected, that was already the introduction to our strong relationship. And then to listen to him talk about his 19 years in business up to that point. And he had told me so much about Keller Williams and so much about Massage Heights. And those relationships didn't happen overnight. They were seeds that were planted and watered over like a 2 to 5 year period. And he knew the value of building long-term relationships in business. And coming from a corporate world where everything is transactional, the way the upper leadership treats employees is transactional, the way the business treats its consumers is transactional, and everybody's looking to utilize technology to enhance those transactions, but nobody's looking to use technology to enhance the relationships. And that's the philosophy that Wes and I share, that SD Tech really tries to showcase with our partners. The relationship with Massage Heights, it is one of our most fruitful ones, but it took a long time and a lot of investing in that relationship to get it to where it's at today.
Yeah. And you guys, I know that one of the things with SD Tech, yes, you're a tech company and it's fun and it's cool and, but you guys almost see customer service and relationship building as two separate things, right? Like, tell me about, like, as the team has grown, when you're doing customer service and customer experience and it's just Wes, it's easy to do because he knows how he wants it done, or it's just you and you know how you want it done. But what do you say to business owners that are like you guys? You're building a team and now you're really building momentum because Wes isn't a one-man show anymore, right? How are you managing building that, the magic of Shane and the magic of Wes? How do you get that across to your team? Because as you take on more projects, it gets hard to keep a handle on that.
It definitely does.
I think instilling within our employees that, level of customer service and helping them to understand like what got us to where we are today, to instill within them, like that's what has to continue if we're going to continue to grow and continue to build those relationships. Like with Massage Heights, like with the tablet rollout, I looked at that as an opportunity to have individual interactions with each and every one of the SPs. There were a lot that we hadn't talked to or ever met, and maybe there's ways that we could help them drive more efficiency in their day-to-day operations using technology. And there were a lot that we were able to build further that relationship with through that rollout. But it gave us more of an interaction, more of an opportunity to build relationships. When we do build outs and stuff like that for you guys or any of the other franchises we work for, we look at it as an opportunity to build that relationship with that new owner. That new owner's coming in, they've got a lot on their plate. They're trying to figure out, learning the business. That's one thing, whether it be Massage Heights or the Gents Place or Keller Williams or whatever, they're having to learn all of that. And they're probably stressed out as they're going through this whole build out process. If we can take the entire technology piece off of their plate and just handle that turnkey, that helps to bring value to that relationship. And through that consistency that we've been able to show over the year, that's what's kind of built that relationship with Massage Heights. And then they have the trust that we're going to take care of their franchisees. The franchisee has trust in us. They can rely on us to be that technology provider.
Yeah.
So that it's all relationship based,
So what Wes is sharing right now, Casey, this is one of the things that he's right. We do our best to not only instill this in our team, but even before we bring in a new individual into our team, when we're going through our hiring process, we look for people who are customer centric. We look for individuals who have some level of background in customer service, or people who can at least relate, even if they've only been a technician. Because a lot of people who think of technology expert technicians, they don't associate that with customer service. Yeah. But it's always customer service. So as long as they're able to relate that back to us about, just being customer centric, then we know that we have a really good foundation. But every single one of our employees has some level of customer service background. Many of our employees have worked in call centers or retail or the food industry. So they're experienced with handling a multitude of clients, a multitude of customers, and they're also used to not getting to know anybody on a one-on-one level. And so this is something that we have been able to offer them a job where they're like, oh, I finally actually get to know the people that I'm helping, which provides more value and a better experience for our employees, because it's great when you get to help somebody. It's significantly better when you get to help somebody and then you talk to them again later and they're like, oh, I'm so happy that I met you and you're so wonderful and we love you. That makes the job so much better.
Right. And I think you guys do such a good job too. And I'll tell you an example. When I had SD Tech, one of our tablets, actually two of our tablets were down. Something happened. I was trying to reset and do something. And I called in and I got a tech on the line. And he was like, basically telling me, you're just going to have to buy a new tablet. And I was like, no, 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 I'm going to mail it in. Da, da, da. And I got a call. And I don't know if it was from you or if it was from Wes. But the person on the phone said, that tech was new. We listened to the phone call. It wasn't handled properly. And that stuff happens. Like, when I had Massage Heights, and you guys know I sold it February 1st, but when I had it, we had front desk people and we would listen to how they handled phone calls. And, you're running a company and then you think you're good at customer service. And when you don't get it right, and someone calls you back from that company that goes, hey, we didn't handle that right. This is what you really need to do. We'll take care of it. I mean, that is like music to the ears of either a customer, one of our clients at Massage Heights, or a business owner like me, because I have, you have SD Tech who's running your tablets and all your back end stuff. Then you've also got the people who are running your scent. You've got your people that are running your marketing. Like, you have so many vendors when you're a business owner. And I think one of the biggest things that I talk to with other business owners is like, we get overwhelmed with the amount of, just go to your dashboard. Log into your dashboard. It'll show you all your analytics, or everything you need to know is on your dashboard. And I got to the point as a business owner where I was like, if one more person tells me to go to my dashboard, I really do think that as the best thing you could do B2B is say, call me. I'll handle it. And those are the people that you want to do business with. And that's what I loved about SD Tech. Now, when those tablets went down, or someone broke one, or, we tell them 100 times, don't put it in your backpack. You cannot take it out of the building. And they, they're busy, they're working, and it somehow goes home with them and comes back the next, that kind of stuff was like, but SD Tech was always, you guys are really good. And now I thought you had a huge team. My perception as a business owner on the outside, I thought SD Tech was like a big team of people. So
we do have 15 people now, but 15 is still relatively small. And that's not big. It's not.
No, I mean, and so what is the plan? So your CEO and COO, it sounds like you finally got in your groove of how to scale, because going from 350 to 2 million, that's a jump, right? You're going to keep jumping. What is the plan? I mean, did you guys hire an HR department? Because let's say two guys out there right now, let's say there's a Wes and he's working his butt off. And he's like, man, if I want to grow, I can't keep doing this alone. He starts to build. Then he brings in a Shane. What would you tell those guys? Would you say, hire an HR department because you guys aren't going to have time to be listening to,
So that's great. I would first say, when you're looking at doing something outside of yourself, lean on the people around you, right? So whomever that is, as a business owner, you're building relationships. You're building relationships with clients, you're building relationships with vendors, but find somebody who's going to be near equally invested in your people as you are. And once you get to that point, for HR, we still handle all of our own staffing. I feel that the staffing piece of it's too important, right? And a key person who's not the right fit for your company can have devastating impact. Fortunately for you and I, Casey, it was me that actually called you back. That was our first time to meet. But so we still handle staffing. But I would say, I think that like our first key position that we looked for somebody to help with outside of the company was sales, right, Wes?
Yeah, it was sales, and then the accounting after that. I should have done the accounting sooner, but
So Wes easily would say that when you're looking for somebody outside of your core people, CPA assistance from some level should be one of your early partnerships, right?
For sure.
Yeah. I feel like taxes have been a pain for a long time, and trying to get everything straight.
Yeah, and bookkeeping and all that stuff. It's such a time suck too, and it's not something that most business owners actually enjoy. I know I don't enjoy that. I enjoy applying payments to invoices. That's the fun part. But, keeping track of all the debits and credits to the account and all the different credit cards and all that nonsense, like that's not fun. So getting somebody who's good at doing that and can help you navigate those, potential financial pitfalls, that's big. So that's somebody that you want in your back pocket. And then in terms of growth, I think, we have some, you want to go a little bit into the franchising side of it, Shane? I
Sure.
think that's our next stage of growth.
Yeah. So I think it's been about 2 years ago, around the time that we broke, it was either 1 or 1.25 in gross revenue. We were looking, going, okay, so we have great potential. If we made no changes right now, we're still going to have some really good growth. But what do we want to do to continue elevating our own experience? And we were looking at 3 different avenues for more quickly acquiring growth. And we were looking at mergers and acquisitions. We were looking at the launch of our brand new business that would kind of similar to Massage Heights, actually, the way they launched the Summit franchising, right? Which supported the Massage Heights business. We're looking at launching our own VoIP product because we're really good at providing phone service. And then the third thing, we're looking at what makes us really good. We realized we do a really good job at supporting franchisors. Like we work with 4 or 5 different franchisors, and we're really good at supporting multi-business unit organizations. And I was like, well, if we're really good at supporting them, could we possibly figure out how to franchise our own business? And then so we sat down and we started talking for several months, and we decided that we wanted to franchise. And so everything that we're talking about with you, Casey, we really believe this. So we believe in the power of partnerships and finding the right person. When we recognize that we're weak in an area and we want to grow in that area, we're going to look for somebody that has our back. And so Wes started scouting out some people who could assist us with the business consultation for franchising. Mm-hmm. And he met this awesome guy out of California, Scott, who had launched his own franchise, and he had built it up to several hundred units. The dude had been sued a whole bunch of times, so he knew all of the ins and outs with the legal, and he could help us with the pitfalls. And then
that's important. No one talks
so
about that,
important.
but I would like to talk to somebody that's been sued.
Yeah. Right. The best thing we could do is learn from other people. I would like to learn all about being sued without ever having had a single lawsuit. So we worked with our consultant for about 9 months to a year, getting all of our documentation together, getting all of our processes and procedures together. And a little over a year ago, we franchised our organization. And now we are looking, I guess technically we did just bring on our very first franchisee who's working out of New Braunfels. And we're currently in the process of looking for our 2nd through 5th franchisees. And we're going to take it really slow because we know that, one of the biggest pitfalls with franchising is growing too fast and bringing on the wrong people. But yeah, so that's where we're at. And that's what we're looking to do to further expand.
So you guys were you were going to start like an equipment where you would have like actual hard equipment, like Summit, right? And you nix that.
Actually, not actually. Well, no and no. So it wasn't going to be hardware. It was looking at providing. So we provide phone service internally, but we wanted to open up our own phone business chapter, if you will. And we decided against that because it took a lot of money to get it up and running. Everything takes a lot of money to get up and running. Yeah. But actually, we're in the process of building that out now. So we're still going to do that. We're going to do everything because we're insane and we don't get tired enough. So we're not good at being bored. So we're always looking for new stuff.
Yeah. And that is a true entrepreneur mindset. It's like borderline ADD, ADHD. And it's, I think like a lot of us, it's hard to, I just had a podcast with a friend of mine. He's building 3 businesses at once. He's a chiropractor, but he's like, I don't recommend trying to do 3 bits. Like you got to focus in. And that is a skill that you have to learn as an entrepreneur. You have to focus in. Because even when I sold Massage Heights, we closed on February 1st. I said, I'm going to take a year off or 6 months, a year off. Within 3 months, I was like itching, like, and there's like all these different opportunities that are coming at me, like e-bikes on an international level, e-bikes in the US, distributorship, all this stuff, and even talking to you, I'm thinking, oh man, I mean, SC Tech would be a great franchise to own because You know, I mean, I only know that you guys did the tablet back-end stuff and phone systems, and we used somebody else for phones, and they were horrible. I wish I'd known. We had all kinds of problems. But okay, so you're going down. So now you're franchising SD Tech, but you still got to grow your current base of business. So what's the plan? Who are you? Yeah. What are y'all going to do?
Well, that's one of the ways that we are going to grow our base of business. So it's kind of a unique concept. Like, with Massage Heights, you're directly servicing clients. You have to have a staff to do that locally. Obviously, it's not a remote based type thing. With us, we support Massage Heights across the U.S. and other franchises as well across the U.S. So we're able to, with certain hardware and software and things like that, effectively provide support anywhere in the United States, Canada as well. Obviously, we do the Canadian locations also, but in growing some of our local presence, that's where we came up with the idea for the franchise. And it's funny, it was kind of a half challenge. So the couple friends of mine that I had partnered with for a brief period of time, we had formed another IT company and grew that a bit. But I found out that I was better off running SD Tech on my own, didn't integrate well with the partnerships. So that's also something that you really want to do a lot of, background and research into, for those other business owners out there before you get into partnerships.
Yeah.
Make sure you all are on the same page. Shane and I are in a sorts of partnership here, but we're aligned in our goals and our ideas and things like that. So I was talking with the guys. We went on a trip to Dallas to watch an F1 race, and afterwards we're back at the hotel and just kind of chit-chatting. And there's a couple different IT franchises out there. You have your CMITs and your Team Logics and things like that, but there's a bunch of things that those companies don't do. CMIT is remote only, so they won't provide on-prem support. They don't do project-based work. So if you were a client of theirs and you bought maybe a second Massage Heights, or your Massage Heights was moving from one location to another, they would not come in and do the low voltage work, the audio work, set up new computers for you. You would have to go get that stuff, and then they could help you once it's all set up. But a lot of those franchises, it seemed to me like they were leaving money on the table, not fully realizing the opportunity that was in front of them. And so I was thinking to myself, well, why not, if SD Tech has worked well locally here in San Antonio, we've been able to expand across the entire U.S. and support clients in various geographical locations. Why not formulate a franchise system based on our process and procedures using our software, our hardware that we found to be tried and true over the number of years that we've. That's the thing, like with R&D, that can be such a huge time suck if you're starting your own company trying to figure out what to use for whatever service you're going to be providing. Massage, for example, like you guys bought into a franchise because they had it whole operations
for
defined.
You. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Use these beds, use these linens. This is how your location's going to look. This is your logo. These are your lotions, all that kind of stuff. So same thing from an IT perspective is being able to hand all that cookie cutter to the franchisee and have them be able to get up and running. So somebody who starts a managed service provider on their own is going to deal with a lot of the things that I dealt with at the beginning, trying to get clientele. And then once you have that clientele, figure out how you're going to service that clientele and also go out and look for new clientele. So it's very difficult to kind of, work through all of that. But I think in that experience that we bring to the table, that's what puts us in a unique position to be able to offer it as a franchise system. So just like Massage Heights, they had a couple locations to start out with. And once they kind of got the concepts down, they decided, hey, why don't we franchise the system and sell it to others? So that's what we're doing now.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that too is, let's say you did open up a SD Tech franchise in Atlanta, where I am. It's not a huge overhead, right? Because you could have a home office, you could have an office anywhere, and a few techs, plus your franchise fee, plus your royalties, right? It's not a huge, it's not like you're building out a retail space with 8 rooms and
no.
sound and lighting and
Yeah, you don't need $1 million to get the business up and
yeah,
running.
that's right.
We use you guys as an example a lot of times as Massage Heights and say, hey, you're into it for $500,000 on the build, and then you got to hire all these people, and then
You got to
you're
manage
bleeding,
all
I
those
don't know,
people.
10K a week.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that is what I ask a lot of people too when they're starting their businesses. They're like, hey, Casey, I have this idea. I go, think about your quality of life. Think hard, because it's not rainbows and butterflies. I mean, when you have a retail space, like someone right now is trying to talk me into opening an e-bike store in Atlanta, and it would be great. And I might do it, but I'm like, oh, I want another retail space, and it's open Tuesday to Sunday. I mean, Massage Heights is open 7 days a week, but with SD Tech, you probably work Monday through Friday, right?
So no.
No, like
Most
emergency.
most of our employees work 5 days a week. But we're available at a minimum of 6 days a week for most of our clients. Wes and I, we're entrepreneurs. Even if we've been in this for Wes for a long time, we're entrepreneurs at heart.
Yeah.
It is difficult for us to not work. However, with SD Tech, with our franchising idea, with our model, one of the things that we did was we looked at technology is one of the fastest growing sectors, right? It's moving at the same pace as medical, and it is just as solid as medical. Technology is not going away. It's only going to become more and more ingrained in running a business. And one of the biggest barriers for getting into opening up your own technology business is the background. And are you techie enough? Do you understand all of the different elements of tech? So we figured out how to remove that. And to be a franchisee with SD Tech, all you have to do is be focused on sales, because you can allow SD Tech Corporate, right, the flagship, to continue handling all of the support. So for somebody like yourself, if you wanted to open up an SD Tech in Atlanta, you could work whatever your hours you want to, going out, meeting other businesses, selling the product, and then offload the support back to our home base, where our technicians, the technicians you already know and appreciate, will be the ones handling it. And so we've really tried to come up with a model that actually gives flexibility back to the business owner, if you will, because to your point, when somebody's talking about wanting to open up their own business, I'm in the same boat as you. I question their sanity, first of all, and then, have you thought this through? Because if you're going to be a solo entrepreneur, I understand that. I definitely do. But if you want to grow out a business, have you ever managed employees? I love my team, but they are a pain in the ass, Casey. They are a pain. And for people who have never managed employees and they're talking about wanting to open up their own business, I'm like, have you considered what it is you're saying to me right now?
Yeah, and the whole time we've had this podcast, I'm looking at you two and I'm like, I wonder how they are. Like, with that, didn't handle me correctly. I wonder what happened to him. How did that go? Did Wes sit down with him and go, because it's a skill. You have to find your voice and find your verbiage and hopefully retain the employee. And yeah, it's a whole set of skills that I had no clue about. I was a medical device sales rep, and I knew how to handle doctors and nurses and staff and all that kind of stuff. But when people were reporting to me and they let me down, I was like, how do I say this? Because, but yeah, it's a whole different ballgame.
It really is.
So what advice do you guys have? I mean, what's one lesson that you've learned? I mean, you've been together since 2019, which is interesting because you come together and then you hit a pandemic and then you hit a major rollout. Because I remember the major tablet rollout with Massage Heights was
months prior.
Well, we shut down Massage Heights on March 14th, which was my 40th birthday for the pandemic. We shut down for 2 weeks, but we were 2 weeks. We reopened May 20th. And when we reopened, we said, let's just go full on with the tablets. And we didn't even know how to use them, but we had them. And so you guys come together as partners, you hit a pandemic, plus you got this major client coming on. What's something that you learned and you look back and you go, oh, yeah, that was a hard lesson?
Wes?
You're like, there's so many, I don't know.
No, so I'll let Wes go first.
Yeah, I mean, I think adjusting to the difference once the pandemic started to hit everyone, that was difficult at first, but I think a lot of our clients realized they had a need for us even more then than they needed before, because having to make a major shift from everyone's in office to now everyone's remote, but they also need to still be able to do their job. Otherwise, our business falls apart. Now we're going to have to lean on technology. Good thing we have SD Tech because it can help us make that transition. So
it was kind of the
for us,
perfect. It was kind of the perfect storm for you guys, really.
It really was.
Really
so
was. Yeah.
when I feel bad, like the pandemic did not treat my family well. It really did not.
Yeah.
But when people ask Wes or I from a business standpoint, how was it during COVID? It was wonderful. It was, from a business standpoint, we did really well. We are very flexible, and we have two people who really have an entrepreneur's mindset. And so that I struggle in answering the question of what hard lessons have I learned over the last 5 years. I've done a pretty nice little podcast tour over the last year. I've been on about 30 different shows, and I get asked, so during this time where it's been a lot of growth, what big issues have you come across? What can you share with other people? I struggle in spinning stuff because our relationship has been really, really good. Our business has grown very, very well. We work very well together, and our entire team works pretty well together. But a lot of that has to do with mine and Wes's relationship and our partnership, the way we view business, the way we view the people that we're working with. And there hasn't been any hard lessons. It's been,
Just less
for me, it's just been the normal stuff. I've already assisted growing out new business sectors with the corporations I've worked with. So I already knew about a lot of the growth pains that we would experience. I knew the importance of finding key employees and doing that quickly and trying to stay ahead of the curve, right? You don't want to hire people when you need them. You need to hire them 3 to 6 months in advance. So we've been really good about that. We've brought on a wonderful team. Not everybody's been wonderful. The guy that you were talking about earlier, Casey, he worked with us for about 3 to 6 months, and then he went on to new adventures. It's been fun, and it still feels really new and fresh in all of the best of ways. And then it feels like we've been doing this forever, but only in the best of ways as well. We're really lucky. Like we're very, very lucky. And a lot of it, there's hard work and long hours and all of the other stuff, but we have a great friendship. We're going to Vegas this weekend together. We're going to go, and it's not for work. Yeah, we're going to go to a festival like this. We're very fortunate to have such a strong friendship and a strong business relationship as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting to watch you guys evolve. And I did not know you had evolved into franchising. That's new news to me. And that's awesome. And I wish you guys the best success. I mean, I hope that SD Tech doesn't lose sight of what makes you guys awesome, which is the customer support, the customer experience, being able to pick up the phone and call somebody. And, and I will give you guys a shout out that even for people that are not techie and they work with you guys, it's like, I don't know how the training is going there, but you're putting it in layman terms. Like, I'm holding this thing in my hand. It's not working. Walk me through it. And that's one thing I always really appreciated. And I know we had some slow adopters of SD Tech. We had some franchisees, I remember in the system, that they just would not get on board with the tech. And that's something that's, I'm sure, a struggle, but another reason why you need to have pockets of franchisees of SD Tech, boots on the ground in communities, because there are a lot of business owners that we're relatively young.
Face to face.
Yeah, we're relatively young. I mean, I'm in my 40s, and we're kind of struggling to keep up with technology right now. Imagine how our older folks are feeling that have owned businesses for so long, and to have somebody come in like SD Tech that says, "Let me help you in person," it's priceless. So, any last parting words you guys want to share with our budding entrepreneurs or wannabe-preneurs out there, tech or not? Any advice?
Yeah, I'd say try to find a differentiator that sets you apart from other, businesses in your industry. I think for us, you were just talking about it just a minute ago, the customer service aspect. There's a lot of managed services companies out there. Not a lot of them are good at customer service. So that's where you can come in, and we've won opportunity after opportunity by just providing better customer service. And we don't do contracts. We have it's a local business that does servicing and rentals for forklifts, and they were currently with a competitor here in town. And I went over and met with them face to face, and they were surprised that the CEO would take time out of his day to come over and talk with them. I still do a lot of the face to face sales. I enjoy it. I think it's part of it's the chase and the reward of winning over a potential client and making them an actual client, but then keeping that client. It's not just about, hey, let's get a ton of clients on, and then, 6 months later, they all leave. That's pointless. That's just spinning your wheels. You want to show them that customer service is the difference, not lock them into a contract, and then they stay because you fulfill your promise of providing good customer service. And that's what we've kept our clients over the years. We have some of them some of the early ones like KW CityView, we've had them since 2000. So that's
20
years.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
No contract.
Yeah.
No contract.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off Wes. That's the best piece of advice, right? So finding something that differentiates your business concept or business idea from your competitors, and then the customer service is always it's always a good differentiator. But just don't lose sight of the fact that people are our best asset, and and that's what's going to bring you new business. It's what's going to bring you the most happiness. And just don't lose sight of the fact that if we're not supporting people, then really, what's the point?
Yeah. Awesome. You guys rock. I'm so excited for you. And thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions when this one posts, and anything that I could ever do to help you, by all means, reach out. And I'm excited to watch you guys grow. So I'm going to wrap us up here. Thank you guys for your time today. Wes and Shane, just a wealth of knowledge in your space. Good to see you guys really taking off. Good to see you, Wes, not working 100-hour weeks.
Yeah.
Well, probably are, but not alone.
Not to work 100-hour weeks.
Thank you guys for being on the No Clue Inc. podcast. Until next time, talk to you soon. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to the No Clue Inc. podcast, Adventures in Running a Business for Beginners. I hope you found some inspiration in today's episode. If you would, go like us and leave us a comment, send us questions. You can listen to this podcast on any of your platforms where you find your favorite podcast shows. Until next time, much love to you all. Have a great day.